Let's go to Lynn in Philadelphia. We're born and raised. And playgrounds is where
Hi,
I spent
Dr. John.
most of my days. What's up?
Hi, Dr. John. Thanks so much for taking my call.
Of course. Thanks for calling. How are you this morning?
I'm okay. I have a question. I'm hoping I can get some guidance and advice from you.
I will do the best I can. And if I answer it terribly, we're just going to edit it out and no one will even know this call happened, which is so good. So
right on.
Only you and your friends will know. You'd be like, I called that guy. He's an idiot. So what's up?
So my question is how to parent through my 15-year-old daughter expressing a desire to reach out to her birth father, who is my ex-husband, who is not a safe person and has not been in her life or mine since she's been born.
Yikes. So when you say not a safe person, let's start there. That's a big one.
Yeah. So obviously from my perspective as married to him, there was repeated unfaithfulness, verbal, emotional abuse. But beyond that, there was also a sustained pornography addiction throughout our marriage that I found out during the marriage. And then that escalated to pornography with kids, or at least with preteen girls looking at porn. Yeah.
Is he in
jail?
jail?
I found when he's not.
What happened when that came to light, that he was into child pornography?
So, I mean, remember, this is almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
I was in my early 20s. I found it on the computer, and I didn't understand at that point, like, oh, I need to call the police. I understand that now.
Yeah.
I didn't. I instead got in touch with, a counselor or a therapist through church, and he did go a little bit, but it didn't really seem to help, and he wasn't invested in that. And so in my mind, naively, I kind of lumped all of that evilness together as just, oh, this is more of his pornography addiction. I know now, like I'm a licensed foster parent, I'm trauma informed, I understand that that is a reportable offense, but like since it's so long ago and it was like on a home computer that no longer exists, like I haven't reported anything about him, and I haven't been in touch with him in like 15 years.
So before the day is over, you got to make a report.
Okay.
You have to do that.
Okay.
You have to. For the kids caught up in that stuff, you got to.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to make that call today. And you can let them know, I know this is 20 years ago. I know that 20 years ago I should have made this call, and I didn't, and here we are. And so I need to report this. And I would also be honest and say, I also know that I've got a 15-year-old daughter who's asking questions about her dad, and this looks bad. Yeah. And, you're going to get me all riled up, man.
I know.
No, so even if I give you grace for 20 years ago, you're in the middle of a storm and you're in a mess and this is all lumped into a big pot. The fact that y'all took this to a church building and they sat on it makes me insane. Right.
And to be honest, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't part of those counseling sessions. I don't know how much was shared other than, he was addicted to porn. I don't know if he went into what type or anything like that. Again, like in my head at the time, it was all kind of a blur. Like we got divorced when I was pregnant with my now 15-year-old daughter. So I was just a mess.
Yeah.
Understand. He was seeing an 18-year-old at the time that I found out when I was a few months pregnant. And then I found pornography, and it was just all a big blur for me, right? But I hear you, and I get it.
Make that call now. I know in a number of states they've passed, there is no statute of limitations on that.
Okay.
And in fact, in a couple of states where I've got connections, it's a crime to not report.
To not report it?
Yep.
Okay, well, we were in Tennessee at the time.
Wherever it happens to be. It's a crime to not report it. And I
Okay.
think in Texas, they just said if you know about it and don't report it, you will be fired from whatever job you happen to be working for,
Mhm.
and you're subject to criminal stuff. So it's
Okay.
yeah, make the call. Even
Okay.
if they raid his computer and there's nothing on it, and he's a changed
Right.
person, the downside to that is he has an inconvenient day.
Right.
Or he's subject to an investigation that finds that nothing's going on.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we're going to protect some children, right?
Okay. Yep.
When it comes to your daughter, what's her? Does he even want to talk to her? Is he responding back to her? What's the deal here? Or she
So
just
she has not.
she just has questions.
She has questions, right? So I saw in her browsing history, she was looking him up,
Sure.
researching him. Throughout her life, if ever she's asked questions, I've answered, but I haven't given more information than needed.
Yeah.
But now that she's older, we talked about it pretty recently, and she wanted all the details. So I was pretty upfront with her, including about the pornography and so forth. And so after all that, a day or two later, out of the blue, she said, "Just so you know, at some point I want to reach out to him."
Of course.
And so I tried to keep don't freak out face on. And I just said, well, got it. What are you hoping happens? Or what are you hoping to accomplish type of question? And she just said, "I have questions."
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I said, "Okay, got it." And so
here's the big question. Here's the big question. What was it about me that you walked away from?
Right.
What was it about all those other girls? What was it about all the other women? What was it about your addictions? What was it about your depression, your whatever, that was so much more important than me? I just need to know that. And so you gave her that curiosity, that creativity, that desire to know herself, and you've been on trauma-informed journeys. You're learning. You love and care for foster kids. That who am I question is foundational to all of us. So her desire to just know some stuff is real. And in her 15-year-old brain, her desire to tell him what she thinks is real too. That's in 45-year-old brains. I'm going to find him and I'm just going to tell him that it never does anything, but it feels like it's going to feel good. So all those questions are good. Right now, the last contact you've had is with a felon. And as the mother of a 15-year-old, you must protect your daughter.
Right.
And so it's okay to say, your questions are super legit. You ask me anything. But in the same way, you would not let her connect with a 35 or 45-year-old person on the sex offender registry list. She doesn't get contact in that level of boundary. I don't care that it happens to be her dad.
Okay.
And you can let her know in that uncertain terms, I have not spoken to this man in 20 years. And last I knew, he was very unsafe. I wouldn't let a strange child around him. I'm not going to let you. Also, one thing that she can do is write letters to him that she doesn't mail because she doesn't have his address, but she can hang on to him. When you make this call, have you not spoken to him for 2 decades or 15 years?
It's been about 13 years because I did end up getting sole custody a year or two into her life.
Okay.
And so that's when we last had contact through a lawyer.
And child pornography didn't come up during their custody hearing?
We didn't really have, it didn't go through a hearing like that. He basically said he was not going to visit her. And so his rights went down to he can only contact her through writing. Right now, he's not allowed to visit her or anything. And he just said he wasn't going to.
And so he just signed it over?
So that was all through a mediator. Yeah, it was all through a mediator. We didn't go before a judge at all.
Okay.
Or a hearing.
I haven't heard of mediated parental rights being terminated before, but maybe I don't know about that.
His rights aren't terminated. So on paper, he's still her father, but he's not by law allowed to visit her. He's only allowed to communicate with her in writing. That's where it was left 13 years ago.
And so I know he is your ex-husband. I know he's her dad. but I want you to listen to what you're saying. And I want to challenge you that your daughter needs you now. Because on paper, he still has the ability to communicate with her. And he's a sex offender. Right?
Yep.
I know that's so hard. I know this brings up every demon on earth in your soul. And I also know that you know these things. How long has that been haunting you that he's going to reach out? That has to have been a ghost that's been chasing you for 15 years.
I've always been scared that she would want to reach out to him, not so much that he would reach out to her.
Think of her reaching out to him as less about him and more about her trying to find out who she is. This is an exploration to find herself, and it's got to go through him.
Right.
And that's okay.
And I get that. And she's kind of going through this phase where she's pushing against a lot of boundaries now,
course
right?
She's 15.
And so this is
right.
I get it, right? So this is another one. And so I want to be careful. Like, my fear is in setting a boundary of no communication, no nothing, that she's just going to try to find a way around it, right? He's easy enough to find online.
1,000% she will.
Yeah.
And what would you do if your daughter was doing what she could to communicate with somebody that you knew was addicted to child pornography? What would you do? I'll tell you what you would do. Anything. You'd cut the Wi-Fi. You'd throw every computer in the dumpster.
Okay. Yeah.
You would go to hell and back to keep your daughter away from that guy. That guy just happens to be her dad.
Right.
And that's why this stuff has to be formalized. You got to make a report. It's got to be written down. And you still got access to, you still have his social security number and his stuff and all that. And there's going to be some shame on your part for not reporting it. Expect that.
Yeah, 100%.
And at some point, you're going to have to forgive yourself and go forward and not continue to be anchored to, I should have in the past. You didn't, so here we are.
Right.
I would also recommend your daughter's going to look for any way. This quest to figure out who she is it's universal. We all go through it. She is going to look for ways that you are the bad guy here, which gives her permission to break your boundaries. Okay?
Yeah.
So there is a difference between saying, this man was sick. This man was an addict. This man got into some evil stuff. And there's a difference between that and I hate this guy. This guy sucked.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so the best you can, keep it about facts and data and not about your opinions.
Yes.
Does that make sense? And that way, it will. It's going to turn that anyway. You just don't like him, or you're just mad that he fill in the blank. Expect that. But that way, there's never that sliver of she's holding out on me.
Right.
This is just you laying out data.
Yeah, and I've certainly tried to never ever say he's bad. He's that. She would ask me when she was younger if he was bad, and I said, he's just sad and he needs healing and he's made bad choices. But I try to never villainize.
I think it's very fair to say he's very, very sick. And there will come a moment when your daughter will look you in the eye and say, why didn't you call?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to be honest with her. Say, I screwed that up.
Yep.
I should have and I didn't. I messed up. And that will never, ever, ever happen again. I hate this for you, Lynn. I hate all of it. I hate it for those little girls involved in the pornography stuff. I hate it for your daughter who's had to grow up with a dad who just cashed out. Oh, man. If you know, and I'm telling this to everybody now, if you know of somebody who's involved in child pornography, call today. Period. Full stop. End of story. Conversation over. Call today. If you know somebody who's hurting kids, call today. If you know somebody who's neglecting their kids, call today. Those kids deserve better than that, and they need all of us. Call today. And Lynn, you're going to have to take a big breath, go do some hard stuff. You're going to have to set that shame down. Your daughter needs you. Daughter needs you. Let's protect our kids, good folks. Let's protect our kids.